Hey everybody, I'm Zach Giltz. I'm a youth director at A&M United Methodist Church in College Station. I'm also a senior here at Sam Houston State University. I can't honestly remember what my degree program is called at this point. I think university studies, but basically a 3 minor major. And so I'm working with psychology, communication studies, and sociology, especially in the field that I want to go into. Certainly it kind of makes sense to tie those things together and move forward in my career and all the things that I can do. I'm also a husband and father of a 1-year-old daughter. She turned 1 at the beginning of this month, so a lot of the early development haptic information really stood out to me, so I'll get into that here in just a little bit. But kind of my first impressions of this chapter, even before I read it, when I saw the title, I had misconceptions coming in. They weren't totally wrong, but certainly didn't pan out to be right. And so when I saw haptics, I was thinking of kind of the digital feedback that we get from our phones, right? You can like a message and you get kind of that zzz feedback. And so I was thinking like, oh, well, like this is going to be all about how technology has become a more authentic means of communication because of that touch feedback and how important it is to the human experience. Not entirely wrong, but certainly like this chapter is much more about human to human interaction, but again, how important that touch is to an authentic relationship. And so I did think that that was kind of interesting with how kind of haptics in the lexicon of our daily lives or my daily life versus just simply touch. Haptics are touch, and something that I thought was really interesting is that this is broken down into 4 categories, which I think are really natural categories for them to be in, but not necessarily how I would process it without having read. And so those 4 categories or types of touch are functional or professional touch, social or polite touch, friendship and warmth, and then love and intimacy. And each of these, like you can imagine kind of, right? Like you wouldn't go into an interview and hug your interviewer unless you had a previous relationship. And even then, if any coworkers are around, right, you come in, polite handshake, right? Like there are appropriate levels of professional touch that really convey the setting that you're in. Again, for social or polite, this might even be the same thing, right? You don't want to meet someone for the first time. You don't want to come across someone and be impolite by snubbing them, but certainly you also don't want to just come in and be far too touching. And then friendship or warmth, something later in the chapter that I thought was really interesting is that your frequency of touch defines your relationship. I think that's true kind of in all of these categories, but certainly none more so than with your friends, right? Like as you grow closer with your friends, typically you touch more and you have different kind of more friendly ways to show that, more warm ways to show that, hugs or secret handshakes, things like that. And then certainly with love and intimacy, touch is a huge indicator as well. But something that I thought was wild was this early development study with monkeys that showed that monkeys far preferred the mother that was much more touching, gave more of a caring feel, but didn't provide food. So they preferred this cloth mother monkey over the wire monkey that was much less snuggly, but did provide food. And so I thought that that was really bizarre and interesting because you can't live without food, but the preference was to live with touch, to be snuggled, to be held close. And again, as I said at the top of the video, I'm a relatively new father. My daughter's 1 year old. And absolutely, this is true, right? We do feed our daughter, but she loves to be held. We're starting to enter into a cycle of her gaining some independence, right? So she'll go from wanting to snuggle to kind of writhing, wriggling around and wanting to be put down and find some independence. So I'm not super looking forward to that cycle within this haptic cycle, but do absolutely love that we've gotten so much time to get to cuddle with her. And of course we will continue to do that. This kind of has a cross-sectionality with sociology and psychology when we talk about secure and insecure attachments. And it's clear that touch creates, healthy touch creates healthy connections. And so we have these secure attachments for, especially in early development when there is touch. There is often later in life healthier and more secure attachments, versus if touch is withheld, then you get these unhealthy attachments, things where you're more quick to push people away because you weren't receiving that embrace early on. Another thing, kind of just to go back to my kiddo, because she is always on my mind, but is this idea of proxemics. The closer I am to my daughter, her name is Olive, the closer I am to Olive, typically the more secure she feels. And so whenever she's really upset, bringing her in all the way to my chest, she'll just kind of go limp and rest on me. And so getting down to that 0 proxemic allows her to feel her maximum comfort and rest. Whereas then I set her down in the crib and she's got to learn to self-soothe, but there's all these spaces where now she feels less secure, less taken care of, which different kind of development there. But and then lastly, I don't want to take up too much time, but this was a fascinating chapter, is that different types, or rather between male and female, there's just a ton of space to misinterpret these haptics. That females tend to interpret haptics one way, where males interpret them another. There's not constantly disconnects, but at the same time, especially when you kind of allow for those things to come together, that there's just a lot of room for misreading those haptics. So again, I can see the timer on the video. I don't want to run way long, but those are just some things that jumped out to me. I'm really looking forward to this class, and I actually really like the video format. I don't know, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a level of anxiety and excitement that comes in this, but also I think being a fully remote student, it's going to be fun to actually get to see my peers throughout this course, and not just see kind of a picture at most alongside a typed out comment. So anyways, I hope you all are having a great week, and I look forward to the rest of the semester. Bye y'all.